All right, so in section 6.8, we're doing what we did on Friday, only advanced, they call it, right? So we're going to have more solutions in this case. Not much to teach you that's brand new, just a new way of doing it, okay? But we're still going to remember to square both sides. That's the main idea. So we're going to solve and check for extraneous solutions. We got 4 examples. All 4 are from your homework, okay? So for example 1, we're going to go ahead and square both sides, because we want to get rid of that square root. So we'll just square both sides. That gives me k squared equals to 2 minus k. Now, since they tell us to solve, remember, anytime you're doing algebraic functions and any type of algebraic equation, in order to solve when you have multiple variables, you want to set it equal to 0, okay? So I'm going to get the 2 and the minus k, and I'm going to move them over to the left-hand side. Now, instead of doing minus 2 on both sides and plus k on both sides, I'm just going to draw arrows. And remember, when you change it, when you switch its side, you're going to switch its sign, okay? So I'm going to switch this 2 over here and this negative k over there. So I'm just going to switch their signs because I'm switching the sides, okay? So k squared plus k minus 2 equals 0. It's the same as if I would have done plus k on both sides and then minus 2 on both sides. It would look the same way. Now notice this is called a trinomial, what I have on the left side, right? And the way we did trinomials is that we were factoring using x method. So I'm going to do the x method for the trinomial. My a term is 1, thank goodness. My b term is 1 as well, and c is negative 2. All right, I'm getting that from down here, the k squared plus k minus 2. I'm getting my ABCs from there. So remember, to factor, you do a times c, that goes on top. That's a negative 2. And your b goes on the bottom. And I need to figure out 2 numbers that multiply negative 2 that add up to positive 1. One of them is going to be positive, one of them is going to be negative. 2 and a negative 1. All right, so there we go. And then I'm supposed to divide by a, but a is a 1, so I don't need to. So that means that these are my 2 answers. So my factors are k plus 2, k minus 1. So let me go back to the original problem. K plus 2, k minus 1 equal to 0. And at this point, you're going to solve for both answers, and then we're going to check them. All right? So let me solve for the first one. K plus 2 equals 0. And then I'll put the other one, k minus 1 equals 0. So if I solve for the first side, that k plus 2 equals 0, what's k equal to? Negative 2. And if I solve for the other one, k is 1. All right, I got 2 answers. All right? But do they both work? So let's do a check step. All right, I'm going to write my original equation. That way I'm not having to look all the way up all the time. I'm just going to rewrite the original equation. And now I'm going to plug in a negative 2, and then I'm going to plug in a positive 1 and see if they both work. All right, so let's see. If I plug in a negative 2, I'm going to put negative 2 equals to the square root of 2 minus negative 2. Well, negative 2 is equal to 2 plus 2. Negative 2 is equal to square root of 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. That doesn't check out. So this is not an answer, because that's not true. That's what an extraneous solution looks like. Okay, I solved it. I didn't do anything wrong in solving it. The problem is the answer doesn't work. Okay, so now let's try 1. 1 is equal to, I'm plugging into the original equation, 2 minus 1. 1 is equal to the square root of 1. 1 is 1. Well, that does work. So this right here, k equal to 1, is my only solution. Even though the other one is an answer, it's not wrong to say it's a solution that I solve for, but it is wrong to say it's a solution that works. It doesn't work with that problem. Okay? So before I move on, I'm going to pause it real quick, but let me see if there's any questions on this. All right, so example 2. So you can see this is similar to the one we just did. It just tends to have bigger numbers and numbers next to variables. The other one didn't. So I'm just trying to add something different than the one that we just did so that you can see variations of what we just did. But we're still going to do the exact same thing. Square both sides, get everything over to one side, set it equal to 0, factor, find your answers, and check. Okay? So same process. So here we go. Square both sides. So on the left side, I get 28 minus 3r equals to r squared. Now notice in this case, r squared is on the right side, so I'm going to move everything over to the right side. Remember, I'm just going to move them over mentally, okay? I'm not going to show, like even these arrows, I don't prefer to show them, but it's okay, just to show you what's happening. I'm just moving them over mentally. So the minus 3r, when I switch its side, it's going to switch its sign. So it's going to become plus 3r. That positive 28 is going to become a minus 28. Okay? So I end up with 0 equal to r squared plus 3r minus 28. Thankfully, my a term is still a 1, so that's good. I don't have to worry about dividing. I'm going to have to factor now. So let's see, a is 1, b is 3, c is negative 28. Okay, and I'm getting that from that trinomial. 1 times negative 28 is negative 28, and then drop the 3. I need two numbers that multiply to 28 that add up to, or negative 28 that add up to 3. Negative 4 and positive 7. All right, I don't have to divide anything, so that looks good. Because 7 minus 4 is 3. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. So this will be r minus 4, r plus 7. So I'm going to put that into my equation. 0 equals to r minus 4, r plus 7. And now I just get to solve both of them. So let me go ahead and write them out. R minus 4 equals 0. R plus 7 equals 0. So if I solve the left side one, r minus 4 equals 0, what do I get? 4. All right. And the right side? Negative 7. Thank you. So those are my two answers. So now I just got to check them. All right. Again, I'm just going to write my original equation right next to it. So my work is right next to it. So let me put it down. Square root of 28 minus 3r equal to r. I know I didn't do that on Friday, but the reason why is because there wasn't as much work going on, so it wasn't as confusing to look up. But right now there's a lot of stuff, so that's why I'm even changing the color on it, just so that you guys know it's a whole different set of stuff. So let's plug in a 4. So I get square root of 28 minus 3 times 4 is equal to 4. Well, that's 28 minus 12 is equal to 4. 28 minus 12 is 16, so the square root of 16 is equal to 4. That means that 4 is equal to 4. So that makes sense. That's good. Now let's plug in the other one. Plugging in a negative 7. So the square root of 28 minus 3 times negative 7 is equal to negative 7. Well, 28 plus 21 is supposed to be negative 7. 28 plus 21 is 49. So square root of 49 is negative 7. So 7 equals to negative 7. That's not true. All right, so I only have one answer. R equals 4. Like I said, sometimes both work. Sometimes none of them work. Sometimes only one works. I just picked the numbers at random, so I don't know if I happen to pick problems where only one works all the time. I have no idea. So I didn't look at the answers. I just kind of picked 4 of them that looked interesting to me. So, are we okay with this one? So, they're all going to kind of have this much work, except for like the last couple. Okay, the last couple are going to be a little different. All right, let's move on to example 3. Now, the difference in these is that now we have a number kind of hanging out with that letter K, right? K minus 6. But whereas before we didn't. So we just would square both sides and we just wrote K squared, right? But now we're going to have a K minus 6 in a parenthesis and squaring that, which means we're going to have to expand it, right? Using distribution. So there's going to be a little extra step we're going to have to do here. Okay? So, and let me check to see how many of these there are, but I think there's 3 at the most. Yeah, there's 3 of them, okay, out of the 8. So, here we go. Squaring both sides. All right. So, on the left side, I'm just going to write it out. It's going to be K minus 6 times K minus 6. And on the right side, 20 minus 2K. So the right side was easy. The left side, I mean, not terrible. Remember, K minus 6 squared means to write it twice, right? The K minus 6 squared means write it 2 times. So I wrote it out 2 times. Now I'm going to have to distribute that. So kind of work through this slowly here. Do the top part. I mean, hopefully by now you guys can do this in your head, but if not, it's okay. But K times K is K squared. Negative 6 times K is negative 6K. Now let's get rid of those green ones. Let's draw them down here. So negative 6 times K is negative 6K again. And negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. The right side just stays the same. There's not much I can do with it for now. All right? Negative 6K minus 6K does not cancel. They have the same sign. So if they have the same sign, you add them. So that'd be a 12, so negative 12. That's what I get. So K squared minus 12K plus 36 equals 20 minus 2K. So you can see this one's a little bit more involved, and the next one that we do is going to be very similar. All right. Now I want to move everything over to the left. Since my K squared is on the left side, I'm going to move everything over to the left. That means that I'm going to get my negative 2K and bring it over right there. And it'll become a plus 2K. So mentally I'll do that. And then this positive 20 will come over here and become a minus 20. Okay? So here we go. I get K squared. I have negative 12K plus 2K. Negative 12K plus 2K. That's negative 10K. And then 36, and then the 20 goes over, so it's minus. So 36 minus 20, that's 16. And that's equal to 0. Are we okay with that? I know I'm not showing the steps, but at some point we got to get rid of that stuff, right? We got to start doing things in our head, not so much having to see everything. So I am drawing arrows just to kind of help you see where things went. But remember, we're just changing the sign because we're changing its size. So, all right, let's factor. You can see why we're only going to give you 3 of these, because these will take a while. My A is 1. My B is negative 10. My C is 16. So A times C, that's 16, and B is negative 10. 2 numbers that multiply to 16 that add up to negative 10. What do you guys think? Negative 8 and positive 2? Negative 2? Okay. Negative 8 times negative 2 is positive 16. Negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10. Perfect. Those will work. So this will be K minus 8, K minus 2. Oops, I'm sorry, not equal to 0. That's just my factor. So I put that over here. K minus 8, K minus 2 equals 0. Now I get to solve And then once I solve, I have to check. So a lot of work. So k minus 8 equal to 0 and k minus 2 equals to 0. That means that k is going to be equal to 8. And also k will be, whoa, what did I put right there? Sorry about that. K minus 2 equals 0. I put k equals 2 equals 0. K minus 2 equals 0 will become k equal to 2. So I have two answers. All right, let me check. I'm going to rewrite my equation. K minus 6 equals to the square root of 20 minus 2k. By the way, that's not required that you rewrite the equation. It's just, I'd rather just look up instead of looking all the way up to the left side. I'd rather just look straight up. So, all right, I'm going to plug in an 8. 8 minus 6 is equal to the square root of 20 minus 2 times 8. 8 minus 6 is 2, and that's 20 minus 16. So 2 is equal to the square root of 4. 2 is equal to 2. That checks out. Perfect. K equals to 8 is an answer. Now let's plug in a 2. Right? Yeah, K equals to 2. So 2 minus 6 is equal to the square root of 20 minus 2 times 2. Negative 4 is equal to the square root of 20 minus 4. Negative 4 is equal to the square root of 16. Negative 4 is equal to 4. That is not true. Have you guys noticed any pattern? What about the negatives? And I'm hearing you too, but what about them? Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was saying one's right, one's wrong.
Okay, one's right, one's wrong, but remember I told you it's not always the case, though. It can be both are right or none are right. You were saying? So we end up getting a number with a negative, right? And that one doesn't seem to work. Why does a negative never work with the square root? Because square roots aren't supposed to be negative, right? So if you notice that you have a square root on one side, on the other side it says negative something, that's not good, okay? If you look at the other examples that we did, notice how this one, the one that didn't work, started off with a square root equals a negative number, right? Square roots can't equal negative numbers, okay? And look at the very first example. The first one that didn't work. Negative 2 is equal to a square root, and that one didn't work, right? So it's kind of like, notice on the last example we just did, it didn't start off that way, right? It was 2 minus 6, but then once we simplified it, oh, we got a negative, and all of a sudden it didn't work. So, so we only get one answer here. Just that one. Now I am going to do one more example, and you might be saying like, oh my gosh, another one, but that leaves you with just one of these to do for homework. Okay, of course you can practice them over. But that way, at least you've seen two of them, then you can try one on your own and see how that works for you. Okay? And of course, if you don't get it, just ask me. We can go over it together. But here's the last one. Now, notice this one's a little different, right? In example 3, the square root was by itself. And then the letter had that extra number next to it, right? Here, the square root has the extra number. We don't want that. We're going to throw that extra number to the right side. Okay, so I'm going to move that 6 over to the right side. So when I switch its side, I'm going to switch its sign. So instead of a positive 6, it's going to be a negative 6. Okay, so let me rewrite. Square root of 3n minus 14 is equal to n minus 6. And now I'm going to do basically what I did in example 3, which is square both sides, expand, factor, right? There's a lot of steps we have to go through, but now we're going to go ahead and do that. So let me square both sides. You know what? I'm going to write it in a separate step just for people who are looking at this just as notes. Whoops, I should put the right number there. That way they know that I didn't move things around and square it at the same time. I just took an extra step. You guys don't have to do it if you don't want to, but so all right, left side becomes 3n minus 14. Right side becomes n minus 6 times n minus 6. I'm going to expand that on the right side, then eventually combine everything together. So 3n minus 14. Let's do the top parts first. Okay, n times n and negative 6 times n. So that's going to be n squared minus 6n. And then I'm going to do the bottom two arrows here. So for the negative 6 times n and negative 6 times negative 6. So that's going to be negative 6n plus 36. I'm going to combine the right side, and then I'm going to move everything over to the right. I want it to say 0 equals, right? So let me do this one more time. 3n minus 14 equals to n squared minus 12n plus 36. And I'm going to move everything over to the right side. Again, the reason why I choose the right is because that's where my squared term is. Okay, if my squared term was on the left, then I move everything left. Okay, don't move around your squared term. Wherever it is, leave it there. Okay, no need to confuse things. Because if I move my squared terms, then it becomes negative, and then the factoring gets a little bit more complicated. So it's just easier to leave it where it is. So, all right, I'm going to move the positive 3n over to the right. It's going to become a negative 3n. And I'm also going to move the negative 14, and it's going to become a positive 14. Okay, so here we go. So I get 0 equals to n squared. All right, negative 12n minus 3n is negative 15n. And then 36 plus 14, that's positive 50. All right, now I got a factor. A is 1, B is negative 15, and C is 50. So A times C is 50, B is negative 15. Two numbers that multiply to 50 that add up to negative 15. 5 and 10, but are they negative, positive, what?
Both negative.
Both negative, right? So negative 5, negative 10, no need to divide, right? Because A is 1. So my factors are n minus 5, n minus 10. So let me go ahead and put them down, and then I'm going to solve for them. N minus 5, n minus 10. So n minus 5 equals 0, n minus 10 equals 0. That means that n is equal to 5, and n is equal to 10. So last thing, got to check. Okay, now you can check, just so you know, you can check the black equation, or you can check the equation right under it, the one where I move the 6 over, because they're equivalent. So I'm just going to do the second equation. Okay, I'm just going to do the second equation, this one right here. It doesn't matter. You can do either this one or that one for checking. Okay, but I just think it looks nicer that I have my square root all by itself instead of having a plus 6 at the end. So I'm going to do the second equation. It doesn't matter. I'll just do the second one, because I prefer having the square root by itself. That's my own preference. So that's the one I'm going to check. All right, here we go. So if n is 5, square root of 3 times 5 minus 14 is equal to 5 minus 6. Okay, so that's 15 minus 14 is equal to negative 1. Can I stop now? Yeah, because now all of a sudden I have a negative answer. Now if I were to keep going, this is square root of 1 equals negative 1, 1 equals negative 1. That's not true. But I could have stopped right here. That's where I knew that it wasn't working. Okay, so 5, not good. Let's plug into 10. So I'm going to go below it. Square root of 3 times 10 minus 14 is equal to 10 minus 6. The right side is a 4, so that's promising. Okay? I have a square root of 30 minus 14, which is 16. And I know that the square root of 16 is 4. So that does check out. So that means 10 is an answer. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah. So if you did the one on top, because you did the one in black, right? Yeah. If you do the one, notice I put stars on both. If you do the one in black, or you do the one right under it, either one works. It's just me personally, I prefer having a square root by itself. But if it doesn't matter to you, then do the one on top. Yeah, it should still work out. Well, I don't know if the answers will always come out exactly the same as in comparison, but they will either both equal or both not equal. So there's not a problem there. So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording, and then if you guys have questions, we'll talk about them right now.